Morning.
Everybody good?
Morning, Adam.
We'll make this quick. We'll get everybody ready to roll. Appreciate everybody being here for the SDCU Holiday Bowl head coach's press conference. We're going to bring up the visiting team first. Coach Dan Lanning from Oregon, he'll say a couple opening remarks, then he'll sit back down. We'll do the same thing to Coach Brown. He'll sit back down, he asks some questions, and then we'll go on with life. So first up is Coach Lanning from Oregon.
Yeah, really honored and a true pleasure to be here right now. I know our team's anxious to compete. The Holiday Bowl has been absolutely fabulous. This opportunity for our players to get to play one more game in an awesome venue, in a fabulous city. That means a lot to us. You know, we sign players from this area every year, and that's certainly been fun. But I think one of the most eye-opening experiences was for our team yesterday on the USS Abraham Lincoln. Just, you know, in our appreciation now, I think every one of us sees it from a different light and what our military does for us, for this great country. Really excited to compete against a phenomenal team in North Carolina and a coach that I have a lot of admiration and respect for, and Coach Brown. They got a great team. This is going to be a fun competition for our guys, and I know our players are anxious to get out there and hit somebody else besides themselves. That's something that you do in bowl practice. You get to go against yourself a lot. And it's probably time for us to go play somebody else. So thrilled to get to go compete in this game. Opportunity to finish the season with 10 wins, really for both teams. So it's going to be a good competition, great atmosphere, and excited. I know a lot of people struggled to get here today. I know some of, you know, my parents included. I think they're driving from Kansas City. So these flights have been jacked up. So that's a 23-hour trip. So James, if you're feeling sorry for yourself, it's a little bit further. Yeah. So, but good trip. I think we're excited to get out there on the field and compete, and thrilled to be here. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Coach Lanning. I'd like to bring up Coach Brown, head coach of North Carolina, the home team for tomorrow's game. Coach Brown.
Welcome, everybody. Sally and I have been blessed to be here now 6 times in the Holiday Bowl, and it just ceases to amaze me how positive the Holiday Bowl group is. Mark Neville does a tremendous job as president. He's become a dear friend through the years, and the Redcoats, the volunteers, are unbelievable, and they're all so proud of San Diego, and they show their city so well. And it was 8 degrees, I think, when we got here in Chapel Hill. So our guys have enjoyed this weather for sure as they start looking at it. And as Dan mentioned, you get on the ship and see that the Holiday Bowl honors the Marines and the Navy. And we start thinking about being away from our families for a bowl game on Christmas. These folks are trying to keep our country safe and secure year-round. So it does get your attention as you go through. So our staff, our families have had a great time. Mesa College was a fantastic place to practice. They were outstanding host, and we got a lot of good work done. As Dan said, you get tired of hitting each other, but teams that don't go to bowl games don't get opportunities for 12, 15 practices to prepare you for spring practice. So people talk about the importance of bowl games and where they're going with a 12-team playoff, and this is important to both teams because we get to compete against somebody that's really good, and at the same time we get to know more about our young players, and we get to prepare for next year. So we're down coaches, which I don't like. I wish we would have a rule where coaches had to stay through the bowl game, be more fair to the kids. We're all down players. Some opt out, some are in the transfer portal. It's all over the place, but it's still a great game with tremendous kids that are incredible in what they do to prepare as they go. So we're excited to play Oregon. Dan's done an amazing job. First year coaches, it's really hard. You didn't recruit most of those guys, and he goes out in his first game and has a tough game with Georgia, and then pulls them all back together and regroups, and that could have been a turning point for him in a bad way because he didn't know a lot of those kids. And he's done an amazing job of pulling it together and keeping it together and putting himself in a position to have a great team. So what we look at this game is we're trying to take another step in our program. You got Notre Dame, top 10 team. You got Oregon, top 10 team. You got Clemson, top 10 team. For us to get where we want to go, we've got to play the best to be the best. And that's why we're so excited about this challenge. They're really good. They got great speed. They're very well coached. They're a team that's mentioned in the college football playoffs every year. And there's two of the best quarterbacks in college football that are both coming back next year. I think both of them have accounted for 42 touchdowns this year. So should be a great game, should be a lot of fun. I really admire, as I said, what Dan's been able to do with his team. I don't even remember my first year, but I didn't do as well as he did. I know that. People in Chapel Hill, I think we were 1-10, 1-11. It wasn't good, so they don't remember it very much. But again, happy to be here and excited about the game.
Okay, guys, we're going to open to questions. If you can talk a little loud, Danny and Bob have got mics. Go ahead. Bryce Miller, go ahead. Give your name, please, and then fire away.
Bryce Miller, San Diego Union Tribune. Coach Brown, as you said, this is your 6th time here. This has been known for its offensive shootouts, this bowl game. What is the offensive potential in this one with these two teams?
I think it's unbelievable. Both defenses hear how great the offenses are going to be, so they're both mad. Coming into the game, they think nobody gives them a chance, so that means those defenses will fight hard. And both of us lost our offensive coordinators, so that's new and unique. We'll have Lonnie Galloway calling our plays, who's never called a play in a ball game, so it'll be interesting as we look at it. But both have really good skill and both can run. So they run the ball much better than we do, which is something I've used Dan for our staff and team all month is look how they're running the ball, man. We got to get back to running the ball better so we can protect our quarterback better. But when you got modern day college football, when you got a quarterback, you got a chance, and these are two of the best quarterbacks in the country.
And as you kind of mentioned, nobody really talks about defenses in the Holiday Bowl. What role do they play? It's more a timely play here or there than kind of a sustained defensive effort in a lot of these games.
Yeah, Holiday Bowl's been so blessed to have great quarterbacks through the years. And you go back and look at some of the games, and Major Applewhite's 27-point comeback in the fourth quarter here. There are just so many times where quarterbacks have made play after play, and defenses have their hands full tomorrow with those two quarterbacks.
James Carpy with the Oregonian. Dan, I had gotten word that, that Don and Dave were chopping up the trip. To go back a year where you're in the playoff, and it's obviously momentous, but things were still a little unnatural around games, and press conferences were virtual, and family couldn't be there for every game, the Orange Bowl in particular. How different is this setting? And when people are talking about the value of bowl games beneath the playoff, that your family is making that trip, and that Bo's family and every other family who couldn't make it because of logistics is driving huge distances to be here and to be in a setting like this.
Well, as Coach said, bowl games are special for a lot of reasons, but certainly, this is going to be the beginning for some young players' careers. Right? I remember not too long ago being at Georgia, and Azeez Ojulari's very first experience in a game was really in the Sugar Bowl, right? And then a couple years later, he's a draft pick, but really didn't play at all as a freshman, in our time at Georgia, and then, grows into a guy that's able to make a tremendous impact. On the same note, this is an exit, for some guys that have been part of our program for so long, and Alex Forsythe, Ryan Walk, some of those guys so this can be a beginning, this can be an end for a lot of players. But it certainly means a lot to families, and especially when a game like this happens around the holidays, you hope you get to share it with more people than just yourself. To be in a bowl game, to play against a team so impressive as North Carolina, and then to be able to share those moments with your family, I think are really special.
Hey, Dan. Bill Orem with the Oregonian. Bo said last week or a couple weeks ago that he really just wanted to be able to go out and play full speed again after the way he'd been limited, obviously, the last few games of the year. Obviously, now that he's coming back, how important is it, or how important can it be for him to have a game at full strength? Assuming, do you consider him at full strength after the last month? And what do you think he can take from this matchup?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, this is the crescendo to a season, but also the beginning of next season. And I think every one of our players, when you play at the end of the season, you play long seasons like we play, there's a lot of guys that are banged up. And having that opportunity to get fresh and be fresh is really the charge that we have as coaches of making sure our players are able to make it to this bowl game and be able to play at full strength, but also challenge ourselves. Coach mentioned it. We see this as like 15 more. It's like another spring practice, right? It's another window to really improve your team. And the challenge is finding guys like Bo that have great experience and making sure they make it to the game healthy and ready to play. But I certainly think he feels a lot better than he did at the end of the season this year, and I expect to see him play some of his best football.
This is for Coach Brown. Lynn Harrington with Stay Alive in Power 5. 2013, played Oregon, your last game at Texas, and lost. Does that give this a little game more added luster to get a win this time, and beat Oregon?
I was going to say yesterday we were on the ship, and Dan and I and Bo were touring together, and Bo was going up the steps in front of me, and I started to grab his ankle. And I thought there were too many cameras, and I didn't want to hurt him bad. It's just one game, So, but I hung in there. God looked at me and said, "No, brother, you can't do that." So, yes, no, we played Oregon here with Mike Bellotti, and I think we got beat 41-40 when we were at Texas early. And then the last game I coached at Texas, we were so unfortunate that Mariota was healthy, and he had been hurt for most of the year, but they all got really, really healthy to send me off right. I think it's 30-13 is really bad, so it wasn't good. But that has nothing to do with tomorrow. In fact, I think the last time we were here, my son walked out on the field and he didn't touch the ball, but the official said he touched the ball. They call it an egregious foul against Arizona State in 2007. So that's the memory I have more than anything else, because then I lied, because I walked off the field and somebody said, "Who was that kid that touched the ball?" And I said, "I have no idea." And it was my son. So, and then he said after halftime, "Can I go back out there?" I think he's 18, 19 something. I said, "No. Keep your mouth shut and stay in here and watch it on TV." And then I look up after the game, and he's doing an interview about touching the ball on ESPN. So those are the memories that I have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Mac. Adam
Hey, Adam.
Smith, Inside Carolina, great stories there. You mentioned Lonnie calling plays. You don't have Josh Downs. There's some shuffling with the coaching staff. Like, what do you expect realistically out of your offense for tomorrow night? Like, what do you think you can count on or hope for?
We've got a GA coaching offensive line, and what an opportunity for those young guys. I mean, what an opportunity for Lonnie. I mean, he's been wanting to call plays his whole life, so he'll get to do that. So my expectation would be just like Dan's, that all we can ask our team to do is give us 100%. If you play the best you can play, and that's all I want. I want these kids. There's really no pressure other than do the best you can do. And if the best we can do is not good enough to beat Oregon, then we'll get ready for spring practice. But I don't want any excuses. Dan's down some coaches too. We're down some players. So really and truly, we can all sit here and mouth about it. But if that's the case, then we wouldn't have bowl games. I don't want us to do away with bowl games. If you think about the 12 teams that'll be in the playoffs, that leaves 100-plus teams that can't get there. So what's their reward at the end of the year? And when you see the families at Oregon and the families that don't get to take trips or don't make much money, and they're out here enjoying the bowl week, the bowl experience, that's a reward for programs that people don't get. And if you're at home now, and most of them are at home watching, you don't get to practice, you don't get the opportunities, but most of the guys on our team have never been to California. This is a wonderful experience for them. Now, you got to play well, and Oregon's really good, but all we can do is ask our guys to play well.
C.L. Brown with the Raleigh News and Observer. If I could ask both coaches to answer one question. For you, Dan, what do you see from Drake May? What qualities do you see that have made him have this successful year? And Mac, if you could answer the same thing about Bo Nix.
There's no secret that the offense runs through Drake, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I don't know that he gets enough credit with his ability to to run with the ball, right? And he does a great job. You know, he's actually leading rusher, right? He extends plays. He's able to see the ball down the field and push the ball down the field. But his accuracy, his poise in the pocket when in duress is really, really impressive. And just his ability to play a four-quarter game. You know, you can see the leadership really runs through him, similar to our quarterback. You know, and like Coach said, if you have a quarterback, you have a chance. And they have a quarterback. He's elite.
And CL, I would say the same thing. We've watched Bo for years. You know, we saw him at Auburn, and I saw him make some unbelievable comebacks in the SEC. And then to see him transfer, and his dad's a coach, and he gets it. He's raised a lot like Drake in a coaching family that Mark coached Drake for years in 7-on-7, and him bringing up. They're both tall. They can both see. They can run. They can make plays with their feet. You can't sack Bo. He hadn't been down, and he runs so much better than people even think. And the other thing, that they're both so competitive. You think about modern-day football, Bo's playing in the game, which a lot of quarterbacks would not be. He also is deciding to come back when he would be a top draft pick. So he loves ball. He loves Oregon. He loves what they're doing, and that's the same with Drake.
Eric Scopel, Duck Territory. Dan, you mentioned Aziz and how that was a springboard for the rest of his career. I'm wondering, with opt-outs, players in the portal, if there are any young players you think maybe you can identify some of those players on your current team who have an opportunity to do something tomorrow that could springboard them going forward.
Yeah, I think we wait to watch the game, then you guys see who you see, right? But certainly there's going to be a lot of young guys out there for us, for both teams, like Coach said. That, you know, there can be negative connotations with who's in and who's out of these games, but I'd rather see the end of the positive side, and that's the side of some young guys that are going to get opportunities that all year have been sitting there waiting for their chance, and you hope that they've done everything they can to prepare themselves for that moment. But we're going to have a lot of young guys out there on the field for us, just like North Carolina will, and we'll see what they do with their moment.
In the back of the TV in the back.
Hey, Mac, here in the back. Pat Walter, WRAL News. What does it say about Drake May's character that he's coming back, given maybe all the opportunities that he had to potentially leave?
Drake, he loves the University of North Carolina. His family's a legacy. His dad was a graduate assistant for me. And I'm just proud of who he is. The fact that he committed to somebody else early and then flipped back to us. And when a lot of these guys that like Drake, he's going to have a great life after football because he's a hero in Charlotte, and so many people at the university look up to him, and we have to look at what's best for these guys long term. And Drake's so excited about our new coaches coming in. They won't be coaching in the game, but they're here, and it's so good now, especially with the transfer portal, that they got to know the coaches before they start in January. But he's a special young guy that loves his school, and it's cool when somebody can find the right fit. Because I noticed today, Dan, I think there's 7 starting quarterbacks in the ACC I read a few minutes ago are transferring. 7. So it's hard to find that guy, and it's hard to find the fit. And we both have that, and we're really, really lucky. And we couldn't be happier than to have Drake at North Carolina.
In the back, TV guy in the back. Yes, whoever's waving at me. Yeah, you. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to say you, but
it's all right. Matt Prehm, 24/7 Sports. Dan, can you just speak to, you had about 5 or 6 guys last year this time that said they wanted to come back for a 6th year, use that COVID year. They wanted to leave the program in a good spot. Alex, Ryan, Cam, Bennett. Can you speak on just their impact they've had this season and where the program is because of that decision by those guys?
Yeah, your first year as a coach is obviously such a fun experience, and my experience sitting here would have been so different without those guys. You know, they put trust. You know, they didn't stick around because of me. They stuck around because they love Oregon, right? And they love football, and they love their teammates. But this season wouldn't have been the same without those guys on our team. It wouldn't have been remotely close. And you talk about going into this game and you want to play with great effort. You know, you have some pride in performance for your university. But for me, I want to go coach this game for those guys that gave us one last shot, one more time. And I'm grateful that the rules played out in a way that those guys could have the opportunity to play, because I think it was a great experience for them. And every one of those guys enhanced their opportunities at the next level and beyond football just because they were able to be associated with our program one more year. So grateful for them, and I want to see our team go out there and play with great effort for those people.
Right there in the back. Okay. And then we're going to do 5 more questions after this, and then Coach has got to go. Go ahead.
Kate Rogerson from ABC 11 in Raleigh. This is for Coach Brown. What have you noticed about those young guys and their response to how the season ended? Because this is the next generation of Carolina football. What has it been like watching them practice and prepare, and how have they responded?
You know, you don't win 9 games unless your team responds and they play hard. And what happens is you look at our wins, all except for 2 came down to the last drive. Our losses, 2 of the 3 came down to the last drive. So that's who we are. I mean, we're Notre Dame was better than we were. We did not play well defensively in that game. And then NC State and Georgia Tech came down to a holding call, a drop pass in the end zone, a missed field goal, and that's just what it is. We have to play really well to have a chance against these guys because Clemson, we turned it over 3 times and had a field goal blocked. So we can't do that. And we're not at that point yet. But I think the most important thing for our program is 4 years ago we won 2 games. And this is the 4th straight bowl game. We won the Coastal. We're making progress. We're taking steps. We haven't taken a step to beat a Clemson. We haven't taken a step to beat a Notre Dame. We've lost to Notre Dame 3 years in a row. We lost to Clemson twice, and Oregon's in that group. So that's out there for us, and it's a huge hill to climb. But a fun challenge. I didn't want us to go play an average team. I wanted us to play somebody that's really good, so it mattered. And I know our guys will give it their best shot.
John, Jared, go ahead.
I got a question for both coaches. Coach Lanning, first of all, what was the biggest adjustment for you going from a defensive coordinator to being a head coach?
I was talking to Coach Brown about this yesterday. You know, all of a sudden, every problem becomes your problem, right? Before, it was just the defensive problems were my problem. I didn't have to really worry about the offensive problem and special teams, and that's certainly been a transition, you know, where you're part of every decision that's made within a program. I've been fortunate enough. I hired outstanding coaches. We have phenomenal players. And we're able to let them do their job, and they do a great job. But it lets me kind of oversee, and some of the best coaches that I've ever been around, they do a great job facilitating that, but letting their coaches coach and their players play. And that's been my goal, you know, in sitting in this seat here. And certainly I feel like I've been able to do that. But you don't get to do near as much ball as you think you do. You get to do a lot of other things besides football, and that's part of the job, and I certainly embrace it, but that's been a little bit of a change.
Coach Brown, you were out of football for a few years. You're running around doing the ESPN game. A lot of times when you're in the pressure cooker, you know, you're so focused. Having the opportunity to travel around, do games, talk to other coaches, see how other programs are doing, how did that make you a better coach when you came back to North Carolina?
Yeah, first I told Dan yesterday, I've been doing this 34 years and I'm 71, so he's going to look like me because he's in great shape and he's young and he's energetic. So that he didn't like that. That didn't look good. I enjoyed my 5 years in your all seat. I think if every coach could go to the media for 5 years and see how hard your jobs are and see why that. A lot of coaches think you're sitting around trying to beat them up. You're trying to find something. You're really not. You're trying to get somebody to read your stuff. Just trying to get somebody to look at your stuff. And it was healthy for me to see that for 5 years. And I felt like that when you're in a box for 30 years like I was, and we were winning enough that you don't really look outside your box enough. And you keep doing the same stuff, and it's working, and you keep the same staff because you're winning, and you don't have an influx of new ideas. So it was really healthy for me to go watch other people practice, to call games on Friday night, to watch 24 games on Saturday, to see who the young coaches were, because if you're not careful when you again get in your box, you don't see new coaches. You don't see who the young talent is out there, and it was a real fun 5 years for me to watch.
Leading to that question.
Kitty Alvarado from KPBS News. It's such a huge undertaking to hold a a football game at a baseball stadium, and it was supposed to happen last year. It was canceled at the very last minute. San Diegans were so disappointed and heartbroken when that happened, and I'm sure North Carolina team was also heartbroken when that happened. And for it to happen finally this year, everyone is doubly as excited. How excited and how meaningful is it this year for it to happen for your team?
Yes, I didn't realize that the game had not been played the last 2 years because of COVID, obviously, and then last year the disappointment right at the end. So we're all excited. I mean, it's a fun matchup. We like each other. The players were on the ship yesterday. Some teams I've been in bowl games with, you couldn't have the players on the ship at the same time. They'd fight and yell and push, and both teams have nice young people that are excited to be here, and I think we'll see a great game. And our guys, I've never walked in the stadium, so we'll do that this afternoon. Our players have never been in the stadium, so it'll be fun for them to see it.
2 more questions. Okay, right here. Make it good. You've been here all week. Make it good. Get all the pressure on you.
Cameron Nia from the Sporting Tribune. This is a question for Coach Lanning. You talked about being able to bring back guys like Bo Nix and Alex Forsythe. Can you tell me a little bit about how you've instilled the culture where guys want to return to your coach?
I think today in college football, more important than ever before, I think there's a lot of other things that overshadow what really matters. And the number one thing that matters to me as a coach is relationships. And if you have genuine relationships with your players, I think that goes a long, long way. And we've got some, phenomenal young men on our team. And ultimately, to build a great program, you want to be able to have great relationships. And somewhere we can all grow as coaches every day. It didn't used to matter. It matters. It matters a lot. And if you can get a guy to run through the wall, that's one thing. But if you can get a guy that's prideful to go out there and work every single day and play hard for his teammates and his coaches, I think that speaks volumes. So, we feel like the key to that is relationships.
Could I say too, and for both of us, when you look at college football players, it's incredible how hard they work. They work year-round like Olympic athletes. They go to class. They've got tremendous scrutiny. Now they've got pressure every minute of every day to win, to play. We've got 120 on our team, and 11 get to play at a time. So there's so many kids on that team that work hard that don't get to play. So when Dan looks at our team, he admires those kids. When I look at his team, I like to speak to them and congratulate them because they're amazing kids. They're not good kids. They're amazing kids. And they don't get the credit for how hard they work and what all the joy that they give all of us to watch in college football.
Okay, one last question, and then we're going to put the trophy here in the coaching stand behind it for a couple of pictures, then we're going to let the coaches go.
Mac, it's been a long season for you guys with the week 0 game. I mean, when you think about when you guys started practicing, you all talked since July about the feeling after the Mayo Bowl game last year, losing to South Carolina, what the locker room was like, and it seems like that scene was sort of a really motivating factor for you guys, driving force just coming into this year and maybe some of the wins that you've had. I mean, can you go back to what the mood was like in that locker room down in Charlotte last year at this time? And just, I remember you saying, you were embarrassed and it just felt pretty awful.
Yeah. As a football coach, you're embarrassed if your team doesn't play well. And I mean by that, play as hard as they can. We're going to mess up some stuff. Kids are going to mess up some stuff. But if they give us 100% effort, I'm good. That's all we can do. And last year we didn't do that. Not everybody tried hard during the game. I can't stand kids loafing. I can't stand kids not caring. And there was some of that, and that's all my responsibility. And I told the guys this week, before we started out here, I said, if you're not going to give us 100% during the game, do us a favor. Do the fans a favor. Do the Holiday Bowl a favor. Stay home. Stay home. I told the ones yesterday, if you're not going, when you're carrying water to the starters, whatever you're doing on that sideline, if you're not going to do it 100%, don't go. Sit in the stands, because it's not fair. It's not fair to your teammates, not fair to your coaches, not fair to your family, not fair to your fan base, not fair to Oregon to go out there and stand around. And it's sure not fair to the Holiday Bowl. You all have treated us great. You deserve a show. And that's what we're here. It's we're in the education business during the week. We're in show business on the weekends, and that's it. So that we didn't treat the May Oboe fair last year, and I've been doing this a long time, and that's one of the worst feelings I've ever had in my life, walking off that field thinking, you know what, we didn't show up. Some of those guys play their tail off every game, but as a team, we didn't show up, and it made me want to throw up.
Okay, guys, so we're going to move the trophy a little bit, get a shot with the